Lodgeman, medic, tanker, gunner, commander, frontline, backline engineer, demolitionist, partisan, scout, pilot, gunner, bombardier, dive bomber pilot, scout plane, naval commander, naval gunner, sonarman, damage control, facility men, and many others that are that you're able to choose from many roles in Foxhole. There's one that tends to get overlooked, and I'll explain here shortly. And it's personally my favorite. It is the sniper. Whether you're an infantry sniper rocking an Omen or a Cinder at the early war, or due to the cost and where it falls, the Auger, the Raka, or the Quick Catch in the late war. Now, to understand how each of these portrays, you have to understand the overall cost factor between each type of gun and the associated costs with it. For the Omen and the Cinder, they're relatively cheap, firing 7.62 and only costing just a little bit of BMATs to be able to use. For the Omen and its counterpart, the Cinder, they're either made in a factory, such as right here, or a mass production facility. And in the factory, for a crate of 15 Omens, it is 155 BMATs inside the factory. For an MPF, for a queue of 9, it is 849 basic materials. For the Cinder, it is also in the same metric as where it's made at 130 basic materials for one crate of 15 in a factory. Or for a full queue of 9 in a mass production facility, it is 715 basic materials. So while both are a relative, amount per crate, the Cinder comes at a cheaper cost. But that is by design, because the Cinder's max range is, just short of the Omen. The Cinder's range is anywhere between 33 and 43 meters, while the Omen's range is between 35 to 45 and a half meters. Both deal about the same amount, between 45 to 67 hit points per shot. Now, when you move on from your basic understanding of it and you want to start to utilize it, we are going to go over what I typically would use. And this isn't, the end all be all way of how to snipe and how to utilize these different metrics and everything else, because everybody has their own way of interpreting how to utilize each weapon, each role, and everything in its entirety. So we are going to start with the loadout that I normally would take with just the Omen. And this is whenever the radios are available along with the binoculars. So typically I would keep about 6 spare clips, and yes, that is the correct terminology for Foxhole, clips, not max, because these are 7.62 millimeter clip ammo, a radio, and a secondary. The secondary you want to be able to have in case somebody decides to come up on you while you are sniping. The radio is so that you have the ability to see ahead of time as to what's coming down the way and how you can be effective in getting it cover and ensuring you get the jump on unsuspecting enemies. Now, a couple things to note whenever you are utilizing all variants of snipers or long rifles is it all depends on your defensive buff right here. If you are out in the open with your base rifles, you cannot expect your stability to come through much faster. But if we were to go ahead and run inside the relic and more or less jump inside of a garrison, you can see it stabilizes a lot faster. And typically it's much easier to defend from something like this. I have caused so much mayhem with people running straight out of choke point, such as over in Stone Cradle at the cord, because I know if I'm playing Warden, I have the sides and back here, and there's a port on the western side of it that's going to look at the center section, and you have a pretty good area that you can aim through and be able to defend your location a lot better. That's just the basics of it. That's the basic rundown of your long rifles. Now let's go into your sniper rifles. You have the 2 infantry sniper rifles, such as the Colonial's Auger and the Warden's Raka. Now, each one of these is essentially the same cost. However, the outcome is a little different. I'll explain the notion on the medical tent here shortly. And as you can see, I have a small little facility, very, very small facility, built up and set so I can explain things to the T. For your augers and or rakas, just for a infantry standpoint, you'll find them in the special issue firearms assembly of the upgraded version of the Infantry Kit Factory, or the IKF. Here, if you are making augers or rakas for the Colonials, it requires 1 crate of Argentis, 50 construction materials, and 40 processed construction materials at a conversion time of 1 minute 40 seconds. For the Wardens, it is the same cost. However, for it to actually go through, you need 1 crate of loudcasters and the same amount for your construction materials and processed construction materials. However, for your augers, you will get a crate of 5. For your rakas, you get a crate of 3. So the rakas are indeed a little bit more expensive. And if you're curious how I'm able to see that without showing it on the stream, or on the not stream, excuse me, on the video, I am going off of Foxhole Wiki. Now, in utilizing either sniper rifle, there are a few tips that you need to pay attention to before more or less trying to, we'll say for lack of a better terms, jump the gun. At the time when the augers and the rakas come out, you're going to have binoculars, you're going to have gas masks, and you will also have gas mask filters and radio backpacks. Here you can see my standard setup if there were other items of a sniper, because I tend to go in play more of a counter sniper, and I'm more or less dealing with tanks as well. So for me, my general loadout for an auger and or a raka is as follows. Again, go ahead and grab this. That off into there and grab a pair of binoculars. So when you're pulling your loadout and you're understanding what you can and cannot do, it's always good to understand what needs to be done. For this, I go with a gas mask and 2 filters, a radio backpack, a pair of binoculars, and the auger with 2 additional clips of ammunition. Because you can see the auger has 10 rounds that it can use, while the Rocka has 5. If I was using the Rocka, I would have an additional stack of 7.62 ammunition. The Rocka no longer one-shot drops infantry. It used to. And in the need of something, say, like a Mammon or an Ignifus or something that I'm able to grab as a tertiary weapon or in my 3rd slot so I can defend myself against any type of armor coming up or anything of that notion. And you can see how much slower I run whenever the auger is pulled out versus with a pair of binos or a Mammon, because the auger's weight is a little heavy. How to go about utilizing your angles of fire as well as what's around you to your advantage. So let's start with just the basics on elevation deviation and being able to get at a higher level instead of being on par, such as, we'll just use the road, for example, on par if we were on a level basis. I typically like to fire from a higher elevation as it's easier to more or less get an advantage over the enemy. And both factions do this. I don't want to hear, oh, Colonial or Wardens do this. Both factions have done this. I have been playing the game since War 110, and I have seen players do this. This is an intended mechanic of the game because it allows you to climb up on the medic tent. Now you'll notice I climbed up on the right hand side, which is right there on those boxes. You cannot climb up on this. We have not been able to. I've not seen it to be able to, or any of that notion. Now a couple little tricks on this is if you drop down to here, you can actually utilize it to your advantage. Where you duck down, you're in full cover. Pop back up, you're able to get the jump. Full cover, pop up. Not able to be hit. For this, let's talk about how to go about aiming the 3 different sniper rifles. The auger, the Rocka, and the quick catch, which I will cover how its cost in the IKF with everything here. So let's say there's enemies, coming about, and the infantry is slowly pushing up, or you just want to catch infantry off guards. Well, the auger's max range is anywhere between 54 to 59 meters. This kind of is at a disadvantage of the Rocka, where its max range is 57.5 to 62.5 meters. So for your first shot, you want to ensure that you are well within that solid line. And if you've taken a look at the basics on what I have in this tutorial playlist, I go over the effective range, which is at the middle of where the road leading to the left is, all the way within here. So your effective range, you want to be able to hit them where you can see them. If you aim anywhere else, you're going to have trouble. Now, you can see how I still have the shield icon here, and that's giving it an accuracy bonus by cover is reduced by 95%. If you are out in the open, you have an accuracy, you have a 95% more chance of being accurate. And both the auger and the Rocka deal 55% damage, percent extra damage per shot. So it means that not only whenever you fire at an enemy, you're going to stagger and cause them to bleed. The Rocka used to do 100+% extra damage per shot, and they would instantly drop the infantry. But as you're firing, you'll notice that it takes time in between shots to be able to be stationed, to go back into that stability, that stability factor. And you can see it is following that same line constantly as whenever I'm pulling the trigger and it's firing. There is no, oh, well, I'm shooting out of my rounds are going to the right or to the left. It is exactly where I want it to be. So, for example, I'm going to hit this tree. Right here. The branch right there. Like, I am going to hit this tree right there, and I'm hitting right where it's at. The base of the tree right here. And also, remember, I talked about the height line as well. I'm hitting exactly where I want to be. But how do you understand the stability factor when you're not at a higher area, but you're on a level? There's two different ways you could do it. You can do it either inside of an octagon or trench network or whatever, or you could do it out in the open. I probably would prefer to be more out in the open on a stable platform than having to more or less be exposed, because if you're exposed, you're easier to hit and everything else. And you can see how the stability, it factors down a lot faster. 2001, 2002, 2003, 2004. About 4 seconds from it being more or less bloomed out to a stable firing platform. However, when we're inside of something like an octagon, you kind of have to understand that when you are in cover where this shield is right here in the bottom middle of the screen, 2001, 2002, 2003, 2004, 2005, 2006, 2007. It's about 7 seconds. But you're not going to want to fire and stay visible, because you see how it will destabilize and then take more than 7 seconds to stabilize again. And this is with every shot. And if you want that pinpoint accuracy, you have to make sure that it's completely good to go, where it's a pinpoint shot. So how do we circumvent that? Well, if anybody's ever seen me out on any front line and you see me do, like, you see me sniping, so I take a shot, I wait for the chambering, I go prone. You see how much faster that comes down? And you are not going to lose your stabilization, no matter what distance you go. I'm just aiming down. And the same concept with crouching. I mean, yeah, it's, you know, it's not as fast as going prone, but I'm not going to have my head taken off by another sniper. So at distance, we're going to go crouching and then reloading. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. About 10 seconds for it to come back to a full stable. And what we're going to do now, I'm going to move side to side. I'm going to go prone, stand back up, fire, go back prone, and we're going to count down from there. So prone, I'm going to aim down, same area, wait for it to stabilize, and then once it's stabilized, pop up, fire, chambered, 1, 2, 3. And then in between, 1, 2, 1, 2. So it's about anywhere between 7 seconds, same amount of time as whenever I was in cover outside of an octagon or trench. Now you might be asking yourself, what the hell do you have the sandbags for? There's a couple things that I want frontline builders and everybody else to pay attention to. Where you place the sandbags can have a detrimental impact on people trying to provide long-range support for snipers. We all know aiming is a line-of-sight aspect. However, if I'm posted up off to the left of the octagon here. And I'm trying to, and I know there's an enemy literally right at this intersection, but I want to be sure I'm not, you know, in his line of sight all too much. I'm blocked ever so slightly by the sandbags. So I'm going to have to shimmy over left just a little to be able to hit him until I can get that line of sight and essentially down it. There's a couple things that some of us will do that'll put us in harm's way. This is where the medics can actually come into play. Medics, you can be what's known as a pocket medic. Stand probably about, you know, 5 meters behind us or in cover or be directly behind us so we can be that meat shield. And some of us will actually climb up on the sandbags and we will utilize it as a higher baseline, a higher platform to be able to snipe from. This also ensures we don't take the heads off of our allies behind us. That's essentially what I love most about medics who will see me sniping, will see me actively trying to do something, and they pay attention to if I'm being hit, if I'm down, they'll run up, grab me, come over to, you know, a hard point that they can utilize for any type of any type of resistance, so that they don't get tapped either. Now, I will be the first to admit I'm a little evil bastard when it comes to sniping, because if you're within my effective range and I down you, I'm going to purposely leave you down so I can bait the medics into coming for you. Because I know if I essentially take out a medic, that's less people that they can save around them, and that's more resources and everything else being drained. Your blood plasma, your bandages, your first aid kits, your trauma kits, and your medic uniforms all being squandered. That's also if you have any type of secondary, tertiary weapon, you know, secondary or tertiary, or any equipment that you may have. So if you are going to essentially run up and grab the guy that's down, what I recommend, you drop everything that you have in your backpack. You run up, grab him, bring him back, because I rarely miss in this game with sniping. And I'm telling you, as somebody who has been sniping in this game since War 129, it's going to be hell for you to try to get him back without getting hit or without him getting essentially shot off your shoulders. The last tidbit I'm going to go over with any variant of sniping is if you are engaging somebody that's in a higher elevation than you are. First and foremost, you want to be sure that you have an understanding on the type of terrain you are engaging them in. And I want to find something that I can utilize to perfection. Let's go with we'll go over here to the component field. So, and I can explain on the way. We all know Foxhole has a singular approach with aiming, and that is, you know, you want to be able to have line of sight with anything that you're approaching or that you're checking behind. Most people fail to understand that how you are going to be able to engage the enemy depends on the top-down approach. And I say the top-down approach because this actually plays into a factor on how you engage with the enemy from a higher elevated area when you are firing from a lower elevated area. So let's say you are engaging with the enemy and they have snipers on this ridge line and on this ridge line. Well, this ridge line you really can't do anything about, so you're going to want to play this ridge line to your advantage. Here's where the camera play comes into the picture. much, much better than most will ever think. Now, most won't be, actually, we'll go here. Most won't be able to see this at the line of where you can see. What a lot of people tend to do is they tend to tunnel vision and they'll fire at the same area that they're engaged. All because they think this is the same direction of where the enemy's facing. No, the enemy's not facing you west to east. They're facing you east to west. So how is it that you're able to fire uphill on it and fire from top or from down to top on a top-down game? It lies in your camera angle. Because you saw how I could not see the top of that hill? Or the top of that ridgeline? This allows me to more or less be able to manipulate the camera in a way that I can hit the snipers that are on the ridgeline. And you can see where it's line of sight's broken. Where line of sight is not broken. There's also an interesting little fact, and I'm not sure if this is a bug or a feature, but if you're talking in local, I can hear you. I can hear you clear as day if I have the camera like such, if you are talking in local. Hopefully the devs kind of patch that because it does give me an unfair advantage. And I've been able to call out, oh, they're rushing right, they're rushing left. And it's literally to my left and to my right. And I don't know what you're thinking, but that's your right and that's your left. No, because if I'm going to the right, you can see it's all dependent on how your camera is angled. I'm holding the letter D down to go to the right because we all know WASI. Forward for W, S for back, A for left, D for right. But if your camera is flipped 180, W is back, S is D, A is left. A is left, and D is right. In the sense of the camera on how it's going. But it's actually reversed because D is left because it's your left side. A is right because it's your right side. Every single player in this game is right-handed. Notice how the rifle is. Notice where he's holding the binoculars. Notice where he's holding the mammoth. It's all right-handed. That is just an easier way to explain how to manipulate camera angle, get a higher elevation than what you're looking at. The last thing I'm going to go over is the anti-tank rifle, sniper rifle, the ATR SN or anti-tank rifle sniper, the quick catch, which is made only by the Colonials. And then I'll explain what the facility layout that I have for just a quick throwdown facility to be able to make it, be able to make everything. Your quick catches, your augers, your rockas, and you know what you need because the quick catches are a lot cheaper than the augers or rockas. Most are not using it as an anti-tank rifle; they're using it as a cheaper anti-infantry rifle. Because the infantry, like the quick catch, while it is a 14.5 style weapon and meant for armor, most use it as a means for infantry. One second, I want to let this guy know if he hears shooting. Don't worry about it. Okay, I think he's going. So before we get into the distances and the variations with the quick catch, let's go over the cost of what a crate of quick catches actually goes for. So we know that the augers and the rockas cost a baseline of 1 crate of outcasters or argentis, 50 construction materials and 40 process construction materials. Your quick catches cost 1 crate of kataras, which are the 12-7 machine guns that you can actually fire standing up. 25 process construction materials and 5 assembly material ones, and they take 2 minutes. And within it, you get a crate of, I think, like 3. I want to say. Yes, a crate of 3. I had to verify on the wiki in order to be accurate. Now, with the quick catch, its distance is 52.5 to 57.5 meters. And as I mentioned, it is like a lot of people tend to go through and use it as an anti-infantry rifle, and the mechanics are the same. However, you only get 6 shots, and you can actually disable vehicle subsystems. There's the tracks. You can fuel a tank. You can cause it to become disabled once it reaches a certain threshold. You can actually kill armor with it. I've gotten a couple kills with a quick catch in one of the wars recently. It's actually a lot. It's very good to use because it's actually doing 150 to 225 damage per shot. It will strip the ever-living hell out of the enemy armor as well, and it suppresses vehicles. Same accuracy bonus is provided by cover is reduced by 95%. Same thing applies if you are out in the open versus in cover. Whether that's in an octagon, a trench network, even posted up on one of these, or inside of a relic. And I'm going to tell you now, if you are inside of a town hall or a relic, grab either the Volta or the Hangman and allow the suppression to happen, because it actually helps you out if people are rushing with mammoths. You want to utilize the quick catch as best as possible because it will actually turn the tide against armor. And within it, it takes a little bit of time per shot to essentially stabilize every single time. But Marine, you covered all this during the daytime. What about nighttime? How are you able to shoot them and hit them at nighttime? Well, I'm glad you asked. The same rule applies if you are firing at nighttime. Find yourself cover and be able to effectively use what you can against the enemy. Every time somebody fires at nighttime, they silhouette themselves, meaning you'll just see a little bit of their character layout and you're able to hit them. I do that constantly, whether they're on a tripoded weapon, whether they're inside of a bunker system, or they're inside of they're inside of a trench. If I can see any type of silhouetting whatsoever, meaning the outline of you and it's red, I'm able to hit you from distance no matter what you think. Because where it comes down to it, it's not a matter of, oh well, he's cheating, he has hacks. No. So we're gonna use this doorway, for example, okay? This doorway, which between the relic from entry point to exit point, is 24 meters. All right. I'm gonna go pro. What's your assessment if I was to actually be able to fire inside the door within it? You think it's gonna hit any of the walls? And it says the following within this structure does not take friendly fire. Or am I going to have clear line of sight and be able to actually shoot through it? The answer is I am able to shoot through it. The same principle and aspect applies whenever you are shooting inside of a bunker or through a firing port. Now, there's a little bit of a technicality here. Firing ports, you are more able to hit them on their right shoulder. You're able to hit them on the right shoulder in firing ports a lot easier than the left. Because as the aiming system is going in, it's going to essentially more or less counteract how you're aiming from the left, but expose the right a little more. Same thing with if you're in a Sarah or an EMG or a Polybolos or an EAT. If I get any part of your left, oh no, excuse me, your right arm, where you are stationed up in, if I get any part of this right here, I am able to shoot you out of a tripod. I'm able to shoot you out of a firing port. I'm able to shoot you out of the machine gun. Push guns are a little bit more finite because I have to aim past where the gunner's at because the driver's actually a little bit more shielded. And this is mainly for anything that has a small slit in the very top of it. I'm not going to go over all of them because that's for you to determine. If I'm able to see my reticle, say this is the gunner. If I'm able to have my reticle on like such, your head, your body is mine. So within that, just pay attention to how things are going and pay attention to what everything is going for. Remember, the 4 rifles that take 7.62 are your Omens, your Clancy Rockas, your Augers, and your Clancy Cinders. Omen, Cinder, Rocka, Auger. The 2 are long rifles, the other 2 are sniper rifles. And the only one that takes 14.5 that will actually drop infantry in one hit, that's a 6 shooter. That is only takes 6 shots, by the way. It only takes 6 rounds per magazine. Is your 14.5 quick catch. And I hope this will allow people to understand how to utilize them a little better. Let's go over how this quick facility throwdown is on what I have built up. Now you can lay this out however you see fit. You can modify it, whatever. This was all done on Dead Branch, so I didn't have to worry about people rushing, my little facility or anything like that. I have 2 upgraded diesel plants to petrol plants. I have 2 material factories. One is upgraded to a forge for the assembly material ones. The other one is upgraded to an assembly bay for the metal beams. I did not upgrade the metalworks to a recycler, which is typically what you would want to do for what's known as vegan pecans. A little bit easier than farming out components and using CMATs for this as well. And from here, I have an infantry kit factory, IKF, upgraded to a special issue firearm system. But don't get me wrong, there's other good uses for this as well. This is just a quick little thing that I threw together. Also, if you're going to utilize the upgraded version to a metal press, you're going to want an additional liquid transfer station. I have this for both of the power plants. Guys, I hope this was a good tutorial for you to understand and basically more or less know how to utilize the snipers a little better. I'm live on Twitch Monday through Saturday. I've been playing Foxhole every other day, and most parts whenever there's not a short war. And yeah, if you got any questions, feel free to come by the stream, twitch.tv/MarineVeteranX, or here on YouTube. And I appreciate y'all. Y'all have a good one. If you liked the video, give it that thumbs up. If you didn't, hit that thumbs down. If you want to know what I find more useful, post in the comment below. Post in the comments. And if you want to help the channel out immensely, hit that subscribe button. Till then, I'll see y'all later.